What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Horrorheads podcast. I am Rich Mallery here with my co-host Jerry Lourenco.
Let's go!
I fucked up on the intro the first time we recorded this, and Jerry came in really hot, and he just duplicated that. It came in even hotter. So, welcome everybody. If you like what you hear, follow us on Instagram at horrorheadspodcast, or you can email us your love and hate to horrorheadspodcast@gmail.com. If you say something funny or entertaining, maybe we'll read it on the air. So tonight is episode number 11, which is super exciting, and we're going to be talking about the original, well, not the original, the only Sleepaway Camp Trilogy, which I'm excited about because I remember these films very fondly, but I haven't watched them in a long time, and it was great to have an excuse. And the original Sleepaway Camp has a special place in my heart because I remember being young, like 8, 7 years old, and going to the video store with my parents and wandering into the horror aisle. And for whatever reason, that original cover art with the sneaker and the knife through it, it used to scare the shit out of me. It creeped me out so much, and I had no idea what this movie was. I just knew that, like, oh my God, that cover is terrifying. So I will never forget that. And it's the only really DVD cover I could remember, or I'm sorry, VHS cover at the time. I remember having that impact on me. And I know at some point they changed the art to something different, but every time I see that original art, it brings me back to being a kid. So I'm super stoked to talk about these films. So before we actually get into Sleepaway Camp and some of the other stuff, I do want to talk about something that we both watched a week or so ago, and that is the new Strangers Chapter 1. And man, like I think we talked about this previously in another episode, and I had low expectations for this movie, like just knowing it's a trilogy, and I just assumed the first one's going to be a throwaway. And I was so disappointed just because the main reason is it's almost the exact same film as the original Strangers, which wasn't even like 20 years ago. And I don't know why you would just make the same exact movie over again. I think the only thing they really changed, other than small minor things, was in the original, you have the tension of the couple that's fighting, or not fighting the whole time, but they just go through this breakup, and it adds a whole nother level. And on this one, the couple is like happy together, and it just didn't have the same impact. And man, like I'm sure I'll watch the second one when it comes out at some point, but I have no interest. Like I could care less at this point, or couldn't care less as to how they're going to continue the story, because I was so underwhelmed. And like, so how did you feel?
I mean, yeah, so I watched it a couple of weeks ago when it was released on streaming, and I was hyped, because I had the perfect night planned. Just gonna watch it, was gonna be excited about it. Didn't really quite meet my expectations, and I was nervous that maybe I overhyped it too much and it was my fault. So believe it or not, I watched this movie last night.
You watched it again?
I watched it again last night, and same feeling. It's basically what everyone is saying on Earth. It's the same film as the first. It doesn't contain the dread of the first one, and it really doesn't like elevate itself from the first one to be any different or to add anything new or to really kind of pique your curiosity to make you want to watch the next 3 hours of these films. So I don't know where they're going to go with this. I'm just assuming it's just gonna be like Pray at Night. They're like, screw it, let's just remake like both of them, and just like copy what they can until they run out of things to copy. But I mean, it's not bad. I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but I really, really liked the original Strangers, and that's probably what really put me on to like home invasion films. I never saw a home invasion film until I saw The Strangers. And then after that, it's, as you know, it's probably all I watched for like 3 years. I tried to get my hands on every single home. So that it's hard to meet that, but like they remade it. I didn't, I didn't decide to redo this movie, but they did. So they need to like really, like they need to do something to kind of take it to that next level. They didn't.
Yeah, so the only thing that I think they did change was they made the two main characters more annoying. Like I really could not stand.
They were really dumb.
Yeah, they were dumb, and then the lead male was like everything I dislike in like a person. And yeah, I think that's all they really changed. And I watched it with somebody who had never seen the original, and I asked their opinion, and they're like, "Yeah, it was okay. I'll never watch it again, but it was okay." And I think if I had never seen the original, I probably would have had that thought too. Like, yeah, it was whatever. But again, the fact that they just made the same exact movie, and I remember you and I were talking about this, and you were saying like, yeah, well, they wrote the script and it was like so massive that they couldn't
Yeah.
fit it all into one movie. You could cut out this like
This movie, you could cut out
this
this.
90 pages you could cut out of the script because we've already seen it before. So yeah, I'm so just not interested at all. And again, I'm sure I'll watch the second one at some point, but I'm not going to rush to see it unless we're going to talk about it on the show. But I just don't get it. Again, I'm if you're going to remake something old and do it the same, that's fine. But it's not. I mean, when did Strangers 1 come out? 2009?
2008, yeah.
So like 14, 15 years ago, and you're just giving us the same thing. And again, I get a lot of people didn't see the original, but I don't know. I'm at a
Why not
loss.
set it up with like 20 minutes of this film and then go into like the new story? Yeah, they didn't build a cast of characters that you love, and we know the character that we're essentially stuck with now for the next few movies.
Yeah, they're
Will
not
she be
killing
able
off that
to?
character.
Yeah, is she gonna be able to hold it? You know, for two more movies? I don't know if she's that strong of a lead, or if we like her enough. I don't know if we fell in love with her in this one. They're just like, oh man, I'm rooting for her. You know, I can't wait to see how this progresses. So, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I do want to say there were actually two incidents of Mormon references in this one, and I'm still wondering if that is going to be the tie-in to the Strangers, because maybe they put the first one in to replicate the original, but the second reference was completely unnecessary, but it was still there. And I like to think that most people wouldn't throw something in the story that for no reason at all, just to throw it in to kill 5 seconds. I don't know. That could have been something there. That's all I'm getting from this.
Yeah, I mean they're gonna give you the stranger's backstory probably in this next movie, I'm assuming, which I'm sure there are some people who are always curious, but like you and I talked about, like I don't want to know their identities. Like that ruins it for me. But yeah, so that's it on the strangers. I'm gonna say that's a hard pass for me. Just watch the original,
Yeah, what did I
and you'll
give the
get the same
first
movie.
one? Do you remember?
Did we? I don't. Oh yeah, I was like, did we even talk about that on the show? That was
Yeah,
two
we
episodes
did a
ago.
whole episode. Yeah.
I completely forgot. I think you gave it a 4. You either gave it a 4 or 4.5. Probably a
Okay,
4.5.
so no way for this one. This one gets like a 2.5 maybe.
Yeah, I'll never watch it again. I have no interest because I'll just watch the other one. Like, why would I watch this again?
I reached my quota. I watched it twice. I don't know the next, and unless I need to watch it again to refresh for the second one coming out for some reason. I don't think I do, but just in case, you know, maybe pick up some little clues that maybe I missed. But other than that, it's sad. But you know what? I'm gonna stay optimistic, and maybe one day I'm home, have the whole day to myself, and I could just watch like 5 Stranger movies in a row, and I think that would be pretty cool.
Okay, well, let's move on and let's drink.
Oh, okay. I didn't even pour yet. Damn. What the hell? Damn. All right, you're
Yeah,
right,
no,
man. What am I talking about here?
So for those of you who are coming in new and have never heard us before, usually we start off the episode pouring some bourbon, drinking some bourbon, and talking about some bourbon. I needed to get into the strangers just to get that off my chest before I got into the drinking, but now I think we're ready to start. So if you're at home, open up a nice bottle of whatever you have there in front of you, and Jerry and I are about to do the same. So just a quick note on me. I'm actually a little sick right now. So instead of drinking whiskey on ice like I normally do, I'm actually making myself a hot toddy, and I already have it ready here. I just need to add the whiskey. So what I'm going to,
Cocktails. Hell
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I need something hot right now. So what I'm drinking right now is something called Beer Barrel Bourbon,
I
which,
like that.
yeah, it was
That's
like
it.
affordable. And while I'm not going to drink it straight, I will tell you it does remind me of Woodford. It's really good, actually. I like it, and it's 80 proof, so breakfast bourbon, what have you. American white oak, and I'm guessing it rests in beer barrels. So I'm gonna pour this into
Yeah,
my
pour that
cup
in.
of tea and lemon right now. And what do you got over there?
So I treated myself this week, and I went out and I got some Eagle Rare 10-year. So
Ooh.
this is a really, really, really nice bourbon. I like this one a lot. I don't get to buy it too often. It's a little pricey. It's in that like 70 to
Oof.
$80 range. Yeah. I mean it is 10 years, so it's aged a little longer. 90 proof. And I'm gonna take a sip right now and let you know some tasting notes here.
Nice. I think this beer barrel is 3 month old. I think that's what it says.
Okay, let
All
me
right,
get into the
cheers.
cheers. Let me get into the mic for this.
That was me slurping my tea or my
This
hot toddy.
This has a nice, clean, soft taste. This is great. I mean, there's smooth burn right at the end. It's got some. Let me take another sip here. It's definitely has some like sweetness right in the middle there. Some honey, I would say, and dare I mention caramel.
All right. It's been a while since you mentioned caramel,
I
so
mean, it's in there. I mean, it's either that or some sort of like maple syrup type thing. But I'm gonna go with caramel because it has a little more of a toffee kind of taste to it. Mm, I love it. This is actually probably moving up to one of my top 10 bourbons.
nice. And this hot toddy is delicious. And it's funny, like whenever I am out and I'm with a group of people and I'm feeling a little under the weather and I order one, people are always they kind
Mm.
of like look at me like, "What are you ordering there? Why are you getting that?" And then I get one and they try it, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, it's one of my favorite drinks." So
I drank it when I had COVID. It was it was fantastic.
medicine. That's
You
better
know?
than the booster.
Yeah, like I don't know if it helped or hurt, but I enjoyed it. So maybe if anything, it helped me forget about feeling miserable. But yeah, that's great. I mean, I hope there is a lot of bourbon in that hot toddy because I do have a little drinking game planned for later on. So there will be some sips being drunk, just so you know.
Sounds good. And I have like this much of the bottle left. So
It's gonna
after
be
this.
close. It's gonna be real close.
So, okay, so actually, before we get into talking about the Sleepaway Camp
Hmm.
trilogy films one by one, I do have a little drinking game for you, and it's not so much as a game as more of a one question challenge. So, I'm going to ask you, in all three films, what is the total number of kills? And I will give you within three, and this is what I got for IMDb. So, if you guess within three, okay, so if you guess within three, I will drink for 5 seconds. If you miss it, you drink for 5 seconds.
Wow.
That's how we're starting tonight. Fuck it. So how many kills in all three movies combined?
How far could I be away?
Three.
3. Okay. And what am I betting here?
5 sips.
5 sips.
Fuck it. It's Tuesday night.
Okay, it is Tuesday. All right, I'm gonna say 35.
Ooh, you were way off. Damn, I guess you're drinking. So according to IMDb, the total body count is 47. It
Whoa.
says, and again, it says there are 12 kills in number one, 18 kills in number two plus one implied, and then 16 in part three.
Damn. Well, this was actually completely unexpected. I didn't know that you were going to have the counts of kills. This is very similar to the drinking game that I
Oh
invented.
shit.
So we're not going to be able to play my drinking game.
Is yours more fun?
I didn't have the accurate numbers. I just was going to play a game of high or low, and I
Okay.
was going to give you a number, and you were going to guess if it was higher or lower. And the only information I have in front of me is if it's higher or lower. And so I didn't have the kills in front of me. I just knew like if it was high or low. So damn it. So
Well,
we're
there
not
you
going to be able
go.
to play my drinking game.
But you know what? Though you would have lost that game anyway, as you usually
Yeah,
do.
I probably would have lost anyway. So now we're just got to figure out a way to drink more during this episode.
Damn, how do we kill the next 90 minutes if there's
This
no All right,
is
well,
shocking. See, so we independently planned some drinking games and we didn't discuss like at all what we were going to do, and yet we both came up with a pretty similar game. That's really interesting.
I know people always ask like how much time do you spend like preparing for each episode? And I'm like, what? We just go with it, man. Like we watch the movies and we take notes, but other than that, like I don't know what we're gonna talk about once we get here. So all right. So that sometimes it be that way, right? All right, so let's get into it then. Let's talk about Sleepaway Camp number one. You want to give us the
Yeah,
plot for
heck
this?
yeah. All right. So it's this guy, John, and he brings his kids, Angela and Peter, sailing on a lake. After the kids pull like a prank, they all fall into the water where John and his son are run over and killed by some sort of reckless team boater that's really not paying attention. Fast forward 8 years, we find Angela living with like this crazy spaced out aunt, her cousin Ricky, and they're about to leave for summer camp. While at camp, Angela is kind of shy and strange. I feel like we chalked that up to like the horrible incident that occurred, but not the secret that she and her aunt are hiding. So soon, some campers, counselors, and anyone else acting like an ass, they start getting picked off by a killer in like some really horrific ways. And for some reason, we assume it's Ricky, but there's a big twist coming and a really shocking ending. So I'm gonna leave it there because we definitely want to talk about like the twist and the ending because that's the exciting part of the film.
Yeah, and I was debating on like should we like spoil this ending or not, but this movie is probably almost 40 years old at this point, and I think you kind of have to spoil it, especially as we go to kind of like talk about the other ones. But let's see what happens when we get to that point. So I haven't watched this movie in a while. It's iconic. It's like a movie that's always stuck out to me as one of my favorites. There are definitely some things I forgot about it, and I forgot how much time they spend on the camp hijinks. Like
Yo.
it almost feels like at times like it's this 80s summer comedy, and then you throw in like a slasher element too, which again is pretty cool actually. It's almost two movies, but there's like long stretches of time where there's kids playing baseball and fucking around. There's scenes of like they put what is it, shaving cream on someone's
Oh
face or
yeah.
something, and he sits up into someone's ass. Like it's like
Yeah.
there's skinny
Oh
dipping with a bunch of
man.
dudes. Like there's a lot of hijinks going on in this movie.
And
Uh,
nose and boy ass. That's
yeah.
pretty disgusting in July. Ooh.
Yeah. And I wrote a note, like, I think this movie has more man ass than any other 1980s movie I've ever seen. I might be wrong. And if someone says there's a movie with more man ass that came out in the 80s, like, please let me know because I forgot. And I remember, like, as soon as the first one happened, I was like, oh, yeah, there's going to be a lot of boy butts in this one. And I
Yeah,
was like, they kept doing it, man.
I mean it's definitely like camp hijinks, and I think like in the early 80s there were a lot of films like this, and they could definitely go one of two ways. They're either going to be some sort of like comedy, or they're going to be like some campy horror film, and this was definitely a campy horror film. But I don't want to say that that's what this movie is because I think this movie has a lot more grit than
Absolutely.
that. There was a lot of funny instances. There's a lot of like teenagers acting out, and there's a lot of great lines, like one-liners and stuff like that, which a lot of times could come off kind of goofy. But I think these came off like funny, and I think they held up. So, I mean, I took some notes as well about some of these great lines, and one of them where they're playing like that softball game and the older kids lose, and one of the dudes says to like Ricky, he's like, eat shit and die, and Ricky comes back with eat shit and live. Like, oh my god, what a burn, man.
Dude,
What a
Ricky's
burn, dude.
badass. Like Ricky's
I
like this
mean,
tiny-ish dude. I mean, I know he's probably older, but he looks like he's like 13 maybe, and he don't take shit from no one. Like Ricky was not someone to fuck with. Like he was ready to fight older dudes at certain points. Like he was badass for like this little kind of shrimpy kind of kid. Yeah, great lines. And like I think, if you watch the movie now, it does come off a little campy, but I think if you watch the movie in 1980, it was not campy, and I think it was very serious. And I don't remember having that feeling of it being more goofy-ish, right? This one always stood out to me as very different than the sequels, and this one was a much darker, like you said, grittier movie. Even the kills in all of them are pretty intense, but in this one I felt like they were not comedic and kind of brutal. Like again, that one guy like getting the huge pot of boiling water dumped on him.
the pedophile,
Yeah, and I think he
Artie,
actually lives. I believe he
Artie.
he lives, but
No, no, I
he's
think he
fucked up.
dies. Yeah, he dies at the. I think we find out he
Do
dies
we? Okay,
later
he
on.
gets fucked
Yeah,
up, and there's one scene, and I don't. Here's the thing: I might be misremembering the scene, but I looked it up, and other people say the same thing, and I'm wondering if the version I watched was cut. But there's the scene where the killer kills I guess the main female baddie, and I always,
Judy.
yeah, Judy, and she kills her by inserting a curling iron into her vagina. And I know it's implied, but I remember seeing it different where you actually saw like a shadow or something where you could see it. The version I watched, that seemed to be cut out, and I'm like, did I just not remember that? Like, or did I make that up? But then I looked it up and people were like, no, that's actually what happened. So maybe they cut it at some point, or
Yeah,
maybe I watched.
I think they cut it. So I actually have the when this originally came out on DVD, I have that box set, and you definitely see the hot curling iron, but it's all like shadows. So you see it, you know exactly what's going to happen. You see the curling iron like rise up, and then you see it starting to disappear. So you know exactly what's happening. And I was pretty upset because you want to know why? I really liked Judy. I thought she was a great character. I mean, she was like she was like the bitch. And I liked a little bit of backstory that she dated Ricky
Hmm.
last summer, but her boobs came in, and now she's kind of like feeling herself, and she don't have like any time for his lame ass. So she just wants to talk to like the older dudes, and Ricky just can't handle that. But she totally knows what she's doing, and she plays that bitch card so good that everyone gets behind it. Like the counselors get behind it, the other campers get behind it. Like everyone likes Judy. So I mean, I thought that was a pretty horrific way for her to catch it. And I was a little disappointed because I'm like, "Ah, she's not gonna be in the movie anymore." So
Judy's a baddie. She is, and I will say, if I could pick, if I had to like list the top 10 most brutal kills I've ever seen, just that thought of doing that might be, if not the top one, it's up there. Like that is fucking gnarly. For them to think of that
heck.
is
Oh,
sick. Yeah. So it makes me feel better that again the version I saw was just cut. I mean, it doesn't make
where'd
me
you
feel better
watch
they
it?
cut it. Uh, where did I watch it?
Was it on Tubi
I
or
think it
was
was
it
on
on, okay,
it might have been on Tubi. I forget where I did watch it, but yeah,
on
like
Prime? I think it's on Prime now too.
maybe
So
yeah, one
one
of
of them,
those I
one of them
watched it
probably cut
on.
it.
Yeah, and like I just remember like did I make that up all of these years? But no, okay, cool. But yeah, a lot of brutal kills. There's a funny like I don't want to say it's a funny line, but a foreshadowing line where like they're in the water and like a boy's like fucking around with the girl and they're like, is that a water snake? And then later you find him dead and like a snake crawls out of his nose. It's like, oh
I
man.
mean, that's a lot. I mean, that is a lot for a slasher film to have like foreshadowing and to like build on like these themes and stuff like that. I think this movie probably doesn't get the credit that it probably should get. It probably gets grouped into like a standard like slasher camp film, but I mean it's I think it stands on its own. I think they did so much with like the characters, and they played around with so many different things. I mean, just thinking about like Angela, I mean, she's a teenage girl, we know she's the killer. I don't think that I'm not screwing that up. I mean, we know she's the killer here. And just when you thought that that was the only part of the plot that was like shocking, it was pretty crazy. I mean, what was she, like 16? She was like this little 100-pound girl, and she was taking out like all these dudes. She was taking out like
She might have been
camp
younger. I think I read she was
counselors.
like 14, I believe. And
Really,
I think the actress
the
was that age. If I
owner, everyone got killed by this little girl. So think about like the level of insane that this person lives in, that she could not only think of all these ways to kill people, but to actually pull it off. So we have to assume this is her first attempt at it, since it is the first film. She's pretty fucking good at it, I think. I mean, just very creative ways to take these people out. And I've really enjoyed that about this film. And that's something I always think about, because it's like it's a little bit more developed and a little, like, I'd say like thicker than say a Friday the 13th part 2 or 3 or something like that. It's similar, but I still think it's just there's just more to it. There's something about this film that you're always like, oh yeah, that was cool, that was interesting. It's not too basic.
Yeah, and again, even though it kind of does follow the formula where like a bunch of stuff happens, then there's a kill, then a bunch of stuff
Mhm.
happens, and there's a kill. Like they do really play around with the mystery element of it. Like you do want to learn more about like what's going on with Angela, like why is she this way? The twist at the end like was completely shocking to me, and I was like, what the fuck? The first time I saw it, I was like, holy shit. It's one like you definitely probably don't see coming, although they drop hints throughout the movie. For me, it was completely something different. And I tell you what, like what great casting of Felissa Rose. Like she is one creepy looking kid. Like just the way she just stares with those eyes was like terrifying. Like she was like, if I was in camp with that girl, I would stay far away because she looked like just like a killer. Like she looked, but like also felt bad for her too at the same time. So
A word, you
for
wouldn't be
like
like Paul, you wouldn't try to get in there like Paul did.
I would have been going for Judy, to be honest with you, but and failing. I wouldn't have got Judy, but I would have been trying.
Judy's that upper echelon. I don't know if you were there when you were 15.
So you know what? I just read my note. Felissa Rose was 13 when they shot the movie.
Wow. Okay. I mean, and she did a great job.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
she was amazing, and apparently she was paid $5,000 for the performance, like of this
what?
iconic role. Yeah, and I do have like a Felissa Rose story. So it's not much of a story, but just an anecdote. So I actually had the pleasure of meeting her. I was working on as a first AD on a segment in this anthology movie, Tales of Halloween, and
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Felissa Rose's daughter actually is in the movie. And yeah, I got to be on set, and she was there, like just watching her daughter act, and it was great to see her so just excited to see her daughter like in this horror movie, and like you could tell like they just like really push that, not push that, but like, it's not something that she's afraid to kind of share with her kid, which I thought was really cool. And was a really nice person that I was so excited to meet. I was like starstruck. I was like fanboy. I was like, holy shit.
She's definitely amazing. I didn't get to hang out with her, but I did get to take some pictures with her when I went to go see the trilogy at a theater once.
Oh,
And she
nice.
was like, super cool and nice. But I mean, she became an icon from doing this film. And what is like fucked up is she wasn't even in the other two. It's like it's this one. This one cemented her, and she is Angela. They're, you know what I'm saying? Like I think in the other two, the Angela is good, but it's just something about this performance that really, I mean, you feel like this person's like this a psychopath. Like, and I guess the other movies are different because they're more funny, but here she doesn't take the role like funny. She acts it very seriously. She takes the role seriously, and it totally comes off that way. And brave, knowing how it's going to end, and this crazy twist, which I guess we could get to now. I mean, we could talk about the big twist ending if you like.
Yeah, just really quick before that. So, yeah, this parts 2 and 3 are very different films, right? They're way more campy, over the top, and funny.
Yeah.
And Felissa Rose actually did read for Angela for the second movie, and they chose not to cast her because she didn't deliver the one-liners funny enough.
Yeah, 'cause she probably
Um,
didn't like it. It was probably
yeah, it
fucking
just wasn't the same
stupid. Like,
thing. And
yeah, it wasn't what she was known for.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think she was also getting ready to go to college, but yeah, they did want to bring her back, but just didn't work. So they went in a different direction, and I think, look, I think the Angela they got for parts 2 and 3 make sense for those movies. But yeah, it's very interesting that they thought about it, just like, it would have been a completely different movie. But I bet now, because like Felissa Rose does seem pretty funny, I bet she could probably deliver those. Maybe then when she was like 17, it just wasn't like a thing. But I think if she did the movie now, it'd be hysterical.
Absolutely. But who cares? She did this one, and it was I mean, it was great. I mean, just to think that like she was going to college. Like, I mean, she did all this before she went to
Right? I
college.
know. She's 13. What the hell was I doing when I was 13? I was not making a movie, I'll tell you that. I was
Not
probably going to. Oh, actually, so question. Did you ever go to like a summer camp? I never did. I went to a day camp. I never went to an overnight summer camp.
No, I saw this film, and my mom wanted me to go, and I cried. So I mean, I have a little bit of a backstory about this film as well. And I talked about this probably last year with you during my horror challenge in October, and I know we keep alluding to that, and we'll definitely talk about that more like post August. It was about like the first like horror movie that you ever saw, and this was the first real horror movie that
Oh
I
shit.
ever saw. Not something that was like cut for TV, something that wasn't on like USA or something like that late at night. This was like the first real film, and because I was like super young, and my cousin had like this mom and pop video store that was like at the end of the block, and we used to stay there during the summer. And one night she rented this, and she made all us cousins like sit around and watch this, and it just was like ruined my life or changed my life. I don't know what it did, but that's really like kind of what, like when it all clicked, and that's when I really felt like what like scare and what like horror is, and being afraid. And I think maybe that's why a lot of like any of these one liners didn't land on me back then, is because I was just using that as like my moment to like calm down, or I know it's building, and it's a segue into the next kill, and something bad's gonna happen any minute. So I think, when you're watching this young, a lot of that humor doesn't really land just because you're scared. And I was definitely scared.
I think I actually watched the second one before I watched the first one. I might
Oh,
be wrong on
nice.
that, but yeah, I think I did. And then I remember when I went back to watch the first one, I was like, holy shit, this is a much different movie than I was expecting, just based on part two. So yeah, so you want to talk about the twist? Fuck it. Let's get into it. If
Yeah.
you have never seen this movie and are worried about spoilers, we're gonna ruin it for you, but I don't think that takes away from the movie. I think again, there are hints throughout. You probably could piece this together. I think a younger me when I first saw this did not, but as an adult, maybe I would have. I don't know. But yeah, let's get into it.
I mean, the big twist ending is not only that Angela is the killer, but it's her brother Peter that lived, and her crazy aunt raised him basically as his dead sister Angela. And not only that, but we find this out in the last minutes of the film, where not only do we see like this gory dead body that she tore up, but then we stand up and the only reason we know that it's Peter is because we saw a dick. And it was shocking. It was absolutely shocking, because honestly, it was a girl. It was a girl to me. And I did not see that came completely as a surprise. That was not, it didn't come off as a joke. That came off dead serious to me, and I was shocked.
Yeah, and I think even watching it now, it's funny when you look at the actual effect, because what they did was they superimposed Felissa Rose's head on a naked male body, and a younger naked male body, hoping that was an 18-year-old body, but like we don't know. But it
Yeah,
looks
hope
really
so.
awkward because her
Yeah,
head
it
is like
looks
really big
crazy.
on this body,
Yeah.
and she's making this face, and it's actually terrifying. It's like if you look at it, like, okay, this is a really bad effect, but it's a bad effect that's like sticks in your head. And like even again, I've seen this movie dozen times, know what to expect, and even watching it now, I was like, oh man, that's fucking crazy looking. And it sticks with you. And yeah, I
I
think
mean, it's that face, that face. I mean, she that's really what she's like known for, is that exact face at the end of the film, and it does stick with you. And I mean, I can imagine if she was like reading this and says, "What? Say what? What's about to
wait, I have a
happen?"
dick.
You know, I mean, it was crazy, but I mean, what a crazy topic to take on in, like, the early 80s. I think this was like 83, and we're talking about like transgender. We're talking about I believe her father was a homosexual. He
Yeah, they
was
show that one scene that she watched as a child.
yeah. So I mean, to take these different elements on in a slasher film, and a campy slasher film, I think that all adds to like what I keep saying is like the thickness of this film, that kind of really like kind of buffs it up to make it just more than like your standard, gory slasher film. So I mean, I think that's also what makes it like timeless, because there's a lot of storyline, enough humor, and a lot of gore. And I mean, what a film.
Yeah, and I wonder what people, like younger people now, think of this movie just through the lens of kind of where the climate is now. And again, I personally don't think the movie is saying anything negative about homosexuality or
No.
transgenderism. I just wonder how it's interpreted now. I never got that feeling that like, oh my God, trans people are bad or anything like that. It's just this one person got fucked up because it was like forced on them, right? It wasn't like it wasn't her choice, or his right. It wasn't Angela's choice to go down this road. It was something forced on them. So I just wonder what people think about it now. But taking it, like, forgetting about like the issues and things like that. I mean, it's a it's a stellar movie, and it's iconic for a lot of reasons, right? There's other things in the movie too that, like, there's shots from like the killer's point of view, which are always cool in those 80s movies. I remember I wrote a note about that shower scene where the girl gets like
Oh, with
stabbed through the
Meg.
shower.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like very kind of psycho-ish. Like, and you just see the door open and like the shadow of the knife. It's super creepy. I mean, I think they put a lot of effort into, again, making this movie stand out, while also trying to, like, let's make money and capitalize on the Friday 13th success and slasher movies. I think they tried to do something very different, and I think they did.
Yeah, and I'll talk about that shower scene for a second. So that was Meg, and she was like the bitchy camp counselor. And why she was in the shower is she was getting ready to go on a date with the
Oh
camp
yeah.
owner. Like, why the fuck would this girl be going on a date with this nasty old dude? He didn't look like he was rich or he wasn't good looking. He looked like I can't even explain like what this guy looked like, but I mean, he was wearing like a yellow jacket and green pants. Why the fuck was Meg, out of all the people at the camp, why was she going to shower to go on a date with this guy? I mean, it was
And she was even bragging about it, I
I
believe, to some like, oh, I'm going on a date with like so and so. Yeah, and it's funny, like it's not like he was like this older silver fox. This guy is
no.
not attractive. And it's funny, I don't know if this was a throwback to that or not, but in part three, there's the one camp counselor, Herman, who's even more of a fucking just gross dude. And he like one of the campers like tries to get with him and stuff like
The,
that.
the,
And
the guy
well,
that clogs the toilet and has a thousand corpses.
yes, yes.
that's
Oh my
that's who
God, yes, that guy. I was trying to place what he was in, and
yeah,
oh my God.
he's the guy that clogs the toilet.
And he's getting and he's so silly in part
that
three. And
that girl was even hotter than Meg. So I don't know what they were trying to do, or if they were trying to suggest that these sorts of things happen at sleepaway camps.
maybe they
And
do. I never went.
maybe I should have went, but honestly, if I went, I would have been the dude that nose went into the ass. That would have been me. I mean, like they would have got me. I would have been the dude they picked on. So yeah, maybe it's a good thing I didn't go.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned that I went to like a day camp during the summer, and I definitely got picked on at that day camp, and I did not have a good experience there. So thank God, I was like thankful to be going home at 3 o'clock and glad I didn't have to spend the night with those animals.
Did you get some wet towel shots? Little whips there. Yeah.
Oh, and this is okay. I also wrote this note. It's the first movie that I can think of
Mhm.
where a guy gets killed while taking a shit. I know I've seen that in movies
Yeah.
since then, but I think this is the first time I've seen that. And that was with
I mean,
the beehive.
yeah, and they framed it was just like real life. I mean, that dude, he was taking like 10 minutes to choose the absolute right magazine that he wanted to bring in to the toilet with it. And he really wanted to get in there and get some reading done. Personally, I used to take like the phone book back before phones were invented. But yeah, I mean, he was ready to kind of sit down for a good half hour and do some hard reading. But yeah, I mean, it was so vicious to get someone probably at a very vulnerable moment, and that's something that really anyone can relate to. I mean, that's your nightmare any single time you're in some sort of bathroom stall and it's like 3 by 3 and you're kind of locked in there. You're like, God, I hope no one fucks with me. Well, he got fucked with, and
Yeah.
like in the nastiest way. I mean, bees, it was sick. I mean, is it believable? I don't know, but
Yeah, was it
it was
bees or
pretty
was it like
sick.
hornets or wasps? I'm gonna
Hornets or
pretend.
something like
Yeah,
that.
which would have
Yeah.
been worse. I
I
don't know
mean,
if it would have killed him. Probably
would they have
not, but
killed him? I don't
probably
know.
not.
Let's just say he was allergic and one sting would have killed him, and that's it. But I mean, it was clever. If anything, it was clever, and I guess they need to come up with some like unrealistic ways to kill, because they had plenty of realistic kills. I mean, honestly, when I do think about like that first kill with that pedophile cook, Artie, I mean, that was brutal, where he's just like it was the first kill of the film and you really didn't know what to expect, and you see this like this dirt bag, and he's like has like, I mean, more corn than I ever seen in my entire life. I don't know, but like, is that a cheap prop? Like, I don't know why. If you remember the scene, there was literally corn on the table in that vat, on the floor, over to the side. I mean, there was literally corn everywhere. They probably had 1,000 husks of corn. Like, I don't know why they had so much corn. It was ridiculous, but
I wonder if like, did they again order that corn for set dressing and a prop, or were they just someplace and they just said, "Oh, there's a lot of corn. Let's just like, yeah, I'd be curious. Like the script says 1,000 ears of corn. Can
yeah,
you
I
go
mean, there was
provide
so
that?"
much. But I mean, basically, this guy's like teetering on like this little like chair with like 100 gallons of boiling water. I mean, and that's scary as hell, because I was cooking some sauce recently, and there's a bubble popped and it splashed and hit my hand, and that shit burned really bad for like 2 weeks. And I had to like put like ointment on it, and that was just like a tiny little splash. Imagine the agony and the pain of 100 gallons of like this boiling water. That's sick, man. What a sick way to kill someone.
And it was a cool shot they did too. So after the boiling water falls on the guy, basically he falls on the ground. There's like this shot of just like him holding up his hands, and they're all just burnt and blistered. And like you see his POV, but just him looking at his hands holding up as people come into the room to check him out, and it was effective for sure. And then
And we see him starting to burn, right?
Yeah, yeah. They show his face. They cut to that, but it starts with just kind of like the hands, and then it pivots to show you actually what he looks like. But
I mean,
it was
what a
good
way to
effects.
open, right? What a
Yeah,
way to
yeah.
open. Because it's like, I mean, yes, the first kill was probably the boat accident, but you chalk that off as an accident. This was the first intentional one, and you're like, wow, that is sick. And yeah, that guy definitely deserved to die, but even that was brutal. Oh
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, and even like the opening boat scene is pretty horrifying, where the boat runs over, who we don't know at the
I mean,
time
are you
is
scared of
Angela.
boats now? Because it ruined my entire life. Anytime I'm on a boat and everyone just like wants to like jump off and swim around a little bit, I never ever go to the back
Yeah,
of a
you never
boat
know.
because of
Nothing
that
you could do.
movie.
You're
I am
helpless.
scared. I am scared of that stupid propeller because of this film.
You're helpless in the water. Like, what are you gonna do? Swim away? You can't move fast enough if that boat's
No,
coming at
definitely
you.
not. Yeah, I mean that's crazy, and that created. I think that created like a real fear in my life, because I was like, man, I am scared of being in the water with boats now.
And you live on an island, so that's I
I
think that was
do, and
problematic.
it happens often. It comes up often, more than you would think. But I'm always like by a boat, and I'm like, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm not going in there.
Yeah, but yeah,
Never
what
know
a
when there's a reckless team,
there. Yeah, that never happens, right? A reckless water skiing team. Yeah, so great movie. Yeah, I don't have any other notes other than yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I think we dove into like really the most interesting areas of this film, and just thinking about like the shock value that it had, and whether it's through the kills or the plot twist or anything like that. I mean, it was just for the time. I mean, it really blew your mind. And this is a time where we've already seen Halloween, we've already seen Friday the 13th. Still quite shocking and revolutionary. So a lot of props to this film, and also the only one that Robert Hilsnick directed. I know he didn't direct the other two. So it's pretty crazy how I think this one's so effective, and so like it just fits like that horror canon. It's in the top 100 horror films that anyone should ever watch if they want to get into horror. But for the second and third one, they basically just dropped the entire team and made completely different movies, which we'll get into in a little bit. And I like those films, but it's just crazy how well this one turned out, and that they basically just dropped everyone kind of that was involved with this, and tried all new people.
You know what's interesting too? It's like you have this movie which came out in 1983. You have Friday the 13th, which came out before that. And then there's that movie The Burning, which was
Oh yeah.
1981, which no one, I mean, people talk about it, but it's didn't make mainstream in any way. And I think that movie's similar to Friday the 13th or Sleepaway Camp, but for whatever reason just doesn't get the credit. And I think, yeah, and I don't really understand why. It's just one of those things where maybe marketing and just kind of fell through the cracks. But also a movie I recommend if you want to see again a early '80s slasher around a summer camp.
Yeah, I mean the Burning is a sick film, and they do a lot of things that are twisted, and they like force you to look at things that you probably didn't want to see, and you could kind of like take on the role of the person there and imagine like what they see and what they're going through. And it's a really sick film. But I think really where that film kind of falls a little bit. It has a little bit of that 70s kind of thing in it, where there are times where it's moving so slow, and nothing is really happening, or they're building plot too much, or they're just filming the mundane, where I think Friday the 13th completely cuts that out. They don't have anything like that. And where this film, very little in the plot building, but it's always building towards something. It's not going nowhere. They're not wasting your time showing you something. It's always for a reason. So I think that's where these two excel, and maybe where that one falls a little bit.
Yeah, and I think even the scenes with the hijinks, right, that are take up long stretches of time are at least entertaining. And they might not drive the plot, but it's like kind of funny, right? Like you said, the one-liners are really good, and
I appreciate them a lot more now, where back then it was probably to break the tension, you know. It was probably there to, like, you know, because they're like, people can't handle this. This is insane, you know. And you know, now it's like, you know, what's shocking, you know, today. But I mean, back then there was like, all right, we need to break this and maybe put in a dash of humor just to kind of get to the next scene. So yeah, I mean, they're funny now. I probably pay attention to them 100 times more now than I did when I was a kid. I was too scared to even pay attention.
so before we get to the second one, which is again mostly comedy, with again with some kills and stuff like that. Well, a lot of kills actually, but mostly comedy. What do you rate? Where do you rate the original Sleepaway Camp 0 to 5 Bloody Knives
I'm going to say this is fantastic, but I'm also going to preface it by saying it's not my favorite one.
of the
So
trilogy?
yeah, so it's not my favorite one, but I do love it. So I am going to give this one a 3.5. Bloody Knives, I love it. I watch it often. I'm gonna keep watching it. If you haven't seen these, check it out. And follow Felissa Rose. She's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna. I have the like reverse reaction as you. Is I used to always think the second one was my favorite, but the older I get, the more I like the first one better. And it's not that I don't like the second one, which again we'll talk about in a second, but I just prefer the first one just because it's a different movie, and I think the mindset I'm in now, it's more the movie I like now. So
Mm,
you gave it a 3.5. I'm giving it
yep.
a 4.
Whoa.
Yeah, and like almost thought about giving it a little higher, but again, like as much as I'll watch it every year, you know, there's definitely things about it that it's not like perfect for me. But yeah, I'll give it a 4. So let's
Absolutely.
cheers. I'm gonna drink my hot drink.
Shares and drink along with us, or just listening to us drinking.
Mm. All right, so that was Sleepaway Camp 1. Let's get into the sequel, Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers. And so this was actually filmed over a 3-week period. And during the shoot, things were going so well, according to the filmmakers, that they decided to shoot a sequel back to back. So while they were shooting, they were also writing part 3. And that was shot concurrently right after this one. So they did 3 weeks on this one, 3 weeks on another one. And I think you see that when you get to the third one, that you could tell that certain things were rushed. They ran out of money for certain things, and it was a little lower budget. But this one, you know, it feels higher budget. The plot of this one is Angela, our villain from the first one, for whatever reason, is now an adult and has decided to go back to a different summer camp where she now works as a camp counselor. And unfortunately, she does not like any of the behavior of any of the campers in her camp, and anything from someone cursing to having sex to doing drugs to just being mean. She kind of takes it upon herself to send them home. And by sending them home, I mean killing them in very creative fashion. And it's a running joke because throughout the movie, like they're one by one, like there's bunks where people are missing and people are like, oh, where's so and so? And she's like, oh, I sent them home. Until there's like one person left out of like 20.
Yeah, and that's hysterical, and I think it's important to note that just a few of the details that they put in there is that she was institutionalized after the first sleepaway camp, and she did receive gender reassignment surgery while she was away. So she came back as Angela and not Peter. And in my head, I think she was a fantastic camp counselor. And she's just easily disappointed, you know.
Yeah, she loved the
And
camp, you know. She
yeah,
she
I
just
mean, she won counselor of the month. I mean, we're talking about a top tier camp counselor. So I mean, the fact that she had to send these people home, is it their fault or is it her fault? I don't know. But all I know is that the camp recognized her as being a great camp counselor, and she had high expectations. So, you know, I think it's their fault.
And Angela has a line in the movie where she says, and I'm glad you brought up that point about her being institutionalized and being let out. And she says, I'm cured, and if I wasn't, they wouldn't have let me out. So she's cured. She thinks she's completely fine, which I think is insane. You realize that like she does all of these horrific murders and is just like doesn't understand that she's doing anything wrong. She's like, I'm not crazy. If I was crazy, they would have kept me in there. Like, so what's your problem? You know?
I mean, I think we know how crazy she is capable of being, considering like what happened in the first one, and then really just kind of taking it to the next level on this one. So I mean, she's out of her mind in the first one, and now we're seeing someone who's just like a complete psychopath with like really no regard for life, I would say. She loves camping and she loves camp, but I think that's it. I think that's where the story stops right there.
Yeah, she has no other interest other than camp.
Yeah, and if you just went there and you built your tent and you maybe roasted some hot dogs, or maybe some marshmallows, you probably would have made it out alive. But it's these other cast of derelicts that were being lined up to slaughter. And I mean, in this film has the perfect cast of characters. You got like the stoners, the jocks, the metalheads, the slutty girls. You really pretty much got everyone, and none of them are likable. So it's pretty quick that you start kind of siding with Angela, and you're probably like, you know what, she's right.
Yeah, like if you and I were at that camp, we would have been fine. We wouldn't have been sent home, and we would have just done everything she said and made our crafts or shot our arrows or whatever they do at camp. I don't really know. But yeah, we would have had no issues at all. Like we would have not
What
we
if
wouldn't have been the tip patrol, who we'll get to in a minute.
I mean, what happens if we were drinking bourbon at 15? Would that have been okay?
We would have been sent home. We would have definitely been sent home. That is a no. Not at camp, not being underage. You know what's funny that you say that too about underage, and I look at like some of the actors and I think, oh, they look really old. They look really old. And some of them might have been, but there were a lot of the cast that was underage, and they had to shoot very particular, but creatively to get around that. So, for example, there's like one sex scene towards the end. I forget the character's name, that she's like the blonde and she's fucking the nerdy kind of guy in the woods.
Allie, man. Allie.
Yeah.
It's one of the sexiest scenes in horror history.
And apparently, like the actor who she's fucking wasn't in the scene. It was actually she was actually fucking an extra, and they just cut to his face because he was underage and could not film a sex scene. So they had that. The other scene was, who I would say the biggest travesty of this movie is the fact that the Shote sisters die so early, and we'll get to that in a second. But one of the Shote sisters was underage, and that's why the one sister is hooking up and the other one's passed out, and they couldn't shoot them in the same kind of thing together. And the last thing I will say about underage is it actually gave us one of the greatest lines in movie history, when one of the Tit Patrol, who again we'll talk about in a minute, actually I'll talk about it now. The Tit Patrol are two maybe 12-year-old blonde boys who basically just go around like either photographing women while they're changing or just looking for boobs and butts.
Real little pervs.
Yeah. And there is the original line in the script was, okay, there's this one girl, what was her name again? You said it. Is it Allie? Allie is trying to get the attention of another man, a boy. So she takes off her top. She has a white t-shirt on, and she jumps in the water. And when she gets out of the water, you see like her breasts right through the scene. And the original line in the script was, one of the Tit Patrol says is, "Hey Emilio, check out those nips." But the people on set, to make sure that kids were okay, said, no, you can't have the kids say that line. So they changed it to, "Hey Emilio, party hats at 2:00," which is one of the most iconic lines in horror movie history. And I know you and I used to say that all the time. It's so funny.
Oh man!
And if it wasn't for like some Georgia rep, like who's supposed to look out for child welfare, if they didn't make them change it, we never would have had that line.
Oh my god! I mean, that's it. Doesn't get any funnier than that. I mean, to pull that line out of a slasher film, I mean, whoo.
Party hats at 2:00.
Talk about humor, man. And you know what? I was looking too. I was like, yeah, I'm there with you, bro. I got you, Emilio. I'm with you.
Yeah. So yeah, so this movie again, it has a lot of the hijinks the first one had, right? There's like multiple panty raids,
Penny Ray.
which the first the men do it, and then the girls take revenge and do their panty raid of their own. There's all kinds of stuff like that, and there are plenty of kills. There are a lot of kills in this movie. I think I said there are 18 with one being implied, and
Wow.
they are fucked up. Anywhere from the Shote sisters, one of which being burned alive while looking at the burnt corpse of
Barbecued.
her sister. Um, we'll get to some of the other kills in a minute, but let's talk about the Shote sisters, who are my favorite characters of the movie, and they're just two stoner metalhead girls that just want to party,
I
and
mean, yeah, and I mean they have that little, line where they just want to like smoke and drink, get fucked up and party. It's like, man, like why'd you cut them
I
so soon?
know.
I mean, they were probably within the first I don't think they made the first half hour, which was kind of sad. I thought they were hysterical. I mean, just burnouts. I mean, there's awesome.
Yeah, they were hysterical. They were really funny, and yeah, unfortunately, they are killed. I think they're the first to get killed. With one being off screen, the one kill was off screen, the other one we yet to see. But yeah, I mean, it's just the way they did it was just humorous. Again, Angela now uses like a one-liner for every kill. Some land, some do not. But there's some funny things. Like the one funny scene that stuck out in my head is there's this one scene where Angela's in the room with this one camper who she's going to kill, and the camper is just like babbling, just blabber mouthing, just talk. And as she's like talking, giving her monologue, Angela's like checking the door, locking the windows, looking for like a weapon, like trying all of these different things while this like girl just won't shut the fuck up. And like if she just would have turned around like and shut up, she would have like seen all of this stuff happening. But I'm cracking up watching this.
Yeah, I mean that was a pretty hysterical scene in the film. I think that's towards the end. That's when the
Yeah,
camp
it's
really starts like thinning out, and a lot of people already went home, but she was basically like the tattletale that was always like in everyone's business. And really, I mean, she's looking for like a weapon. And what does she land on out of all the weapons that are potentially for use in the room? Wasn't that the guitar string?
yep.
She decides to like what like
But you know what though? Everything she picked up, I
brutal.
was like, she's like scissors, I forget what else
Scissors
she
good.
picked
What's
up.
wrong with scissors? What's wrong with scissors,
She wanted
man?
something more creative. This is
Guitar
Angela we're talking
string.
about here.
Man, I hope it was the E string at least, man. You
No,
know,
the thin one cuts more, right? What's the thinnest string? Or maybe that's E2. I don't know.
there's the high E,
High
yeah.
E is the one I
There's
would
the
have
high
used.
E. I want to use the low E, but yeah, but I mean, she had a knife in her pocket that she pulls out like 10 seconds after the kill. But I mean, yeah, that just goes to add to a lot of the humor, and I think it was totally meant to be funny that she's like looking and trying to choose the best weapon and then just basically gives up and chooses a guitar string. I mean, really not the best weapon.
You know what it was? I think she was looking for a weapon that she could use a good one-liner on. Like that's because that's really what it
Mm.
was, and that's why the kills were all very like she could have killed everybody with just a knife, but she tried to do something a little different so she could give us that little bit of humor. So, and I will say this. So now how I said earlier that the curling iron in the vagina might be the most brutal kill in
Yeah,
history. I think I am changing my mind because I just remembered the kill in this movie, which is the most graphic kill I've ever seen, and that is one of the campers being drowned in shit.
that's Allie, man.
Oh, that
That's
was
the
Allie? I get confused. There was the two blonde girls. I keep losing track of who was who.
that was that was Allie, man. And I mean that uh, I mean shit and piss,
Ugh.
your two favorite
Ugh.
words.
Drown in it. And she just like kept
Yeah.
coming up for air, just getting pushed back down. And I knew that scene was coming and I was like not ready for it. I'm like, oh, I don't want to see this scene. I don't want to see this scene. And then like, I wanted to throw every time I want to throw up when I see that.
So I used a porta potty recently, and let me tell you, they're fucking disgusting. And I didn't even want to like pee in one, and I was like probably 2 feet away, because there's a little dark in there too. Is that it was that night at a concert, and it was really gross. Imagine go like kind of getting in there, man. It was like, oh,
And
how
the porta potty at a concert like hopefully gets changed every day. This might have been there all summer. Like I don't know if someone was going there cleaning
that was
out
an
that.
abandoned, that was at the abandoned cabin. So
Oh,
maybe it wasn't changed since last year when that
oh.
cabin closed during the first sleepaway camp. So yeah, it was disgusting and nasty, and you see like the leeches and the shit. Oh man. And I mean, again, I was kind of upset about that one because again, just like Judy, I liked Allie as a character. I mean, she was funny, she was bitchy, she had like a lot of problems, you know. She's super horned up. She just wants to like bone everybody. She has like that weird, I don't even know if it was a sex scene, if you'd call it a sex scene, but that weird kind of scene where she pretends she's not feeling
Oh
well
yeah.
while they're out camping, so she meets that dude like in the girls bathroom, and they have like the most awkward kind of encounter where like they're fumbling and dragging her, and they're like half dressed, and like I don't know what the hell was going on in there, but I was like, man, this girl's crazy.
I wrote a note of that, and it's like I wrote bizarre sex in the bathroom. All you see, it's like the shot is basically their like foot to like upper knee, and you just see legs slamming around the room. And I guess you're supposed to think that they're like really going at it, but it's like just absolutely ridiculous because that would, you know, as like rough sex as you could get, it was not that. Like it was really comical. And then they get into the stall and the guy is like giving her supposed to be giving her oral, but he's literally like on her stomach, like kissing on her stomach, like nowhere near like where he should be.
Well, I guess they could get too graphic,
Yeah,
but
yeah, I know, but and Ali has this the really I thought it was a really funny line. I mean, it's not. I mean, maybe it's not funny, but just the way she delivers it is after she fucks that one guy, the last guy she fucks, she just like is putting on her clothes and she's like, "You don't have AIDS, don't you?"
oh,
Like what? You just fucked and it's like you're asking that
a
now.
little
Like what
too
a way to
late.
ask it. Like you know, and the guy's like, oh, "No."
Dude, let me tell you, man, as a young teen, that scene right there, man, that was sexy, dude. That was so, I mean, it felt graphic at the time. She was hot. You probably didn't expect them to show as maybe as much as they did in that scene. So, I mean, to me, that's probably as far as a horror film, probably as far as you could go in a sex scene. I think it was madness. And what I think is really funny is after she walks away and she asks that guy if he has AIDS, and he's like, no. She walks over to her cabin. She doesn't shower, she doesn't do anything, but she sees a note from the dude that she likes, and she thinks that he wants to bone. So what does she do? She like fluffs her hair and she goes walking out to go bone this guy. I mean, this girl got problems, man, and I'm there for it, dude. I am there, you know. I'm wishing like I was at that camp, and I'm like,
I'll write you a note.
that's you know.
Yeah, I will say, and again, like, you know, 80s movies too. This has a lot of nudity, and like I remember this movie as being one of the most movies with like the most nude scenes in an 80s movie. I know it's not the most. I know there's been plenty that have more than that, but there's a lot, and it stuck out watching this again as a younger male, as to like how just free these female
I
campers
mean,
are.
in the first 5 minutes, I mean, they're out there and they're changing in the dorm, like right in front of the windows, and Angela's like yelling at them, and they're like, "Who's gonna see me anyway? Who's gonna see him, Rich?"
The Tip Patrol,
The
that's
Tip
who.
Patrol, that's who. You know, it's like, I mean, that's who. I mean, you did not see that. Like, I was like, what? I'm like, oh, it's just too clever. It's too clever. And I think that's what really made this film so different from the first one. It was funny, and they really did a lot of like that camp based off of like nudity and jokes and drinking and partying and stuff like that. Completely different. I would say the partying was fairly minor in the first film. You know, they tried to go skinny dipping, but you know, only the guys showed up. Those dances were really depressing, but in this, I mean, it was like party nonstop. Everyone was like partying. I mean, whether it's drugs, or alcohol, or sex, it was like nonstop. And I think that's really what makes this film a lot of fun. And if I was to compare this to like a Friday the 13th, I think this has like all the gore, but way more fun.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, I think the difference between, well, besides the tone, the difference between this one and the first one is the first one, the campers are probably anywhere from 12 to 16, I would say. And in this one, I would say the majority of the campers seem like they're 16, 17. They all seem a little bit older, other than, again, the tip patrol, who stands out because there's no other people their age that at least I saw. So it's definitely like an interesting, again, it really does play more into that campy slasher movie. And you're right, it is a lot of fun. You got to take this movie again just for what it is. It's going to be over the top. It's going to be corny at times, but it's definitely a fun slasher. And I'm sure there were plenty of other fun slasher movies, but I'm trying to think of other ones around that time that were like that successful. Like, and I don't mean successful monetarily, but successful where I'm like, that was a good movie. I'm really think about it, I probably could, but not a lot. They were either just straight slasher movies, like, or campy, like not trying to be campy, but campy. They had every intention of making this campy. Like, they were not trying to make a serious movie, and I think it shows. It was a lot of fun. And it feels very 80s. And what was the year on this? Like 88, maybe 86,
88. Yeah. And I would
88.
say it's like 50-50, it's 50 camp, 50 horror, and to find that balance and to do it right and to make it successful is extremely difficult. And this was a new director. This was Michael Simpson. So he did this film, and I guess after what you just told us about how they filmed them, he clearly did the second one, the part three as well, back to back. But I think for the way he pulled this off and the pacing of the film, he got it right. He really got it right. It was enough humor, enough fun, and enough gore to really keep anyone interested. A real horror fan would absolutely love this. Even an occasional watcher, I mean, they would find like probably the humor and the fun side of this. So I like it a lot. I watch this one a lot. This is probably one I watch with my wife a lot because like she could deal with this one because of a lot of the levity of the humor and the sex and all that stuff. So this is a good one. I mean, the kills were fantastic. They were, every single one of them was like really original, whether it was like somebody getting a drill to the head, the porta potty. There's that one scene where she actually dresses up like Leatherface, right?
Yeah.
She dresses up like Leatherface and Jason, right? I think she does
I think
both.
it's Michael Myers, and I think one of the campers has the Jason mask.
Oh,
One has the Freddy makeup, and I believe she does Leatherface, and I think she does Michael Myers, if I remember
I
correctly.
mean, it's how meta is that?
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
it's so crazy, and that's like a concept that we really haven't thought about until like a few years ago. It was like doing the actual thing and saying it and doing it. So it's crazy, and they pulled it off here. They're definitely a little bit ahead of themselves. So I liked a lot of parts of this film, and to me, it started off fun and fast, and it really just it never gets dull. It never gets boring. Whenever they choose not to focus on the horror, I still think it's very entertaining. It's still a lot of fun, and if I'm not like just kind of like squinting a little bit from some gory death, I'm laughing at the jokes. And even now, I think they hold up. I've probably seen this 100 times. It holds up.
Yeah, and I think one thing you mentioned earlier about the pacing, and the pacing is great for this movie. It starts off right away, it doesn't let up. And again, IMDb says there's 18 kills. That might be overstated because I don't know if they're counting like the short sister you don't see get killed. Like, I don't know, but anyway, let's just say there's 15 kills in this movie, and maybe there's 18. There's 15 kills. The movie's 80 minutes, right? So that's like a lot to pack in a short amount of time. And like how
Like
I
every
know
six
that's
minutes.
yeah, how I
Yeah.
know that's 80 minutes is, other than looking at the runtime, is I remember there's a scene where towards the end where the one character has like this dream that recaps like a bunch of the kills. And I remember thinking, and then I read that they actually only did that because they needed to hit 80 minutes. They need to fill in more time. So they just said, okay, we'll just show everything again in like a dream sequence. But that was the only reason that scene's in the movie. And I remember I wrote a note like, why is the scene there? And I looked it up. That's why they tried to get to 80 minutes.
I mean, I have a different note. I didn't care why it was there. I just wrote that was a great recap and montage of all the previous kills in case you forgot.
In case you forgot, yeah.
I was like, hell yeah. I was like, hell yeah. I'm like, oh yeah, that was a good one. You know?
Yeah, why not show it again, right? I thought that was clever. And then the only other note I have on this movie is the lead actress who plays Angela is actually Bruce Springsteen's sister.
Yeah, Pamela Springsteen.
Yeah,
That's and I don't think she's really done anything except for like these two films, right?
that's all I know her from, and I didn't really look at her on IMDb. But and apparently, she didn't make it a big deal that she was Bruce Springsteen. She didn't mention it, even though she shares the last name. And a lot of people that shot with her didn't know till like after. They had no idea, which I think is kind of cool. Again, she's again probably, hopefully, he gives her some money and she's incredibly wealthy and doesn't need to do this. But pretty cool that she wasn't like trying to be a big deal about it. So I respect that.
Yeah, and I believe Molly was that was Renee Estevez, which was what's his name's sister, Charlie Sheen and
Emilio Estevez.
Amelia Estevez, yeah, which is funny. So that's really where they got all the character names from. They were all like young Hollywood names that were pretty hot at the time. So I think this is a good moment to maybe attempt something else here on the fly here.
Okay,
So
let's do it. What do you got?
So you know what? So they're all the characters are named after like young Hollywood actors in the 80s. So how about this? I am going to take a sip since you're not feeling too well and you got the hot toddy. I will take a sip for every single character that you can name in this movie. And you could just give the first. You could just give the first name and I will take a sip. And there are 17 characters that have a name. I mean, you could just throw a name out because it's all young Hollywood in the 80s. So if you come up
I could just guess.
You could guess, but
you have everything in front of you?
I do. If you guess wrong, then you take a sip and you could get a maximum of 3 wrong. How's that sound?
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go.
I mean, you already know at least 2.
Yeah, I know 2. And Angela.
Okay.
Allie.
Yeah, which is would be like Ali, like Sheedy, I think.
Okay. I'm gonna say Emilio
Estevez, yeah.
I'm gonna guess there's a Charlie.
No?
You
son of a bitch, yeah, there is.
All right, let's see. Molly.
Fuck you.
Mallery, hold up thinking. I'm gonna say Rob.
Hold on. 1 wrong.
No Rob?
Take a sip.
Damn.
No Rob. Take a sip. No, wait, there is. Damn it.
Oh shit, I almost spit out my sip.
He was at the bottom. Damn it.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it. Okay.
Is there Judd?
No. Yeah, there is.
I'm just naming everybody in the Breakfast Club. What was the fucking Anthony?
God damn you.
Shit. Who else was big in the 80s?
I named one before, I think, but I don't know if you caught it. So
yeah, I'm gonna stop. I don't know anymore.
Okay, so there was a Phoebe.
Phoebe Cates.
There was a Jody, a Brooke, a Mare. Yeah. And TC, which stood for
That's
Tom
the blonde
Cruise.
guy. That's the blonde guy, right? The blonde guy with the curls.
You did pretty good. So I basically drank on that one, and I lost the challenge in the first part. So I had those extra 5 sips that I took at the beginning of it. So I feel like once again, this episode is not going in my favor. When if you asked me this afternoon how things were going to go, I would have said Rich is going to be drinking a lot tonight. But once again, the tables are turned.
Yeah, you got to watch it with these drinking games, man. They get you every time.
Yeah, I didn't know you were a professional made up drinking game player of something that just we thought of on the spot. I don't know how you have any talent to be able to do that because these are not real.
Like I have the worst memory on the planet, but when it comes to like horror shit, sometimes it just sticks in there. Although, again, like it helped that you said they were 80s names because I could not recall one person other than Emilio and
Yeah. All
Angela.
right. Let's wrap this up and
Okay,
move
so
on to the next one
yeah,
here.
so I didn't give the rules at the beginning, and I do feel we need to give the rules every time. So we do play a drinking game on this show, and what it is it's a long-standing drinking game that we play every episode, and it is whatever rating Jerry gives on a movie, 0 to 5 bloody knives. That's the number of seconds I need to drink, and vice versa. So we already did Sleepaway Camp 1, where I gave it a 4, he gave it a 3.5. I am going to give this one a 4 also, because while I said I like Sleepaway Camp 1 better, I like this one almost as much, just for different reasons. So I'm going to give it a 4.
Mm. Okay, so I know I kind of prefaced this a little earlier. This is my favorite one. I love this. I love this movie. It's so fun, and you know, take from it what you will. It's not serious. It's not brooding. It's not, you know, dark and twisted and gritty, but it is fun. And in the summertime, it's midnight and you just want to watch something. You're a little drunk, you're a little stoned, whatever it is. This is the movie you put on, and it never ever lets you down. So I'm giving this one a 4 as
Okay.
well.
Okay. Sounds
So I
good.
like this one a lot.
All right. Let's drink to 4. Cheers to 4 seconds.
Cheers. Wow.
Luckily,
All
my
right.
hot toddy has cooled down a bit, so I didn't burn myself like I did the last time on the long sip.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give a shout out right now. I met some cool people on Instagram the other day. They're called Sips and Scream. They do a podcast that's kind of similar to ours. So I definitely want to give them a shout out. Where it's two twin sisters,
Oh, cool.
and they make cocktails based on the film that they're watching. So if they were watching like The Strangers, there's that scene where they eat ice cream and drink champagne. So they'll just pop open some champagne and eat some ice cream while they're doing the film review. So I want to give them a shout out right now. They've been giving us some love, and I'm going to give some love back. So
Oh, that's
check
fun. What's
them
it
out.
called again?
Sips
Sips,
and Scream.
sips and scream.
Scream. Yep.
That sounds fun. I'll listen to anything where people
Yep.
are drinking along.
Yep. Just like us, they're brand new, trying to make their way in this horror podcast world, you know, and you know, you gotta spread love when you can, and we support the community 100%. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Is that on like Spotify and
yep.
everywhere else? Cool.
Sure is. So I'm just gonna write that down with my Sharpie S Note gel pen here. And if
Are they a
Sharpie wants to
sponsor?
contact and paint, well, wait, they do pay me. I work for that shit.
So we can't
But
get a second sponsorship.
can't. It's not gonna work out. But if they're listening, just why don't you give me and Rich some airtime there, Sharpie?
Could always use more pens.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so now we're going to move on to Sleepaway Camp 3, Teenage Wasteland, which is a similar film to Part 3. However, you could definitely tell there was some budgetary issues as well as writing issues. Oh, one thing I want to note on the second one that I wrote down a note, some of it like is kind of bad. Like there's a scene in the end of Part 2 where a guy gets his head cut off, and maybe I didn't notice it on the old school VHS, but watching it now, you could clearly see it's like a yellow-headed dummy. And I think there's another scene where there's a body that has leeches on it that's dead that you see like move a little bit. So there was like some things, but again, grain of salt, right? It's a campy movie. Part 3 really kind of takes the camp to a next level, and it starts off with fucking camp. Like the very first kill of this movie, and this shows you you're in for a ride, is Angela wants to get back into camp. She's been on the run for some time, and what she does is she wants to kill someone who's about to go to camp and take their identity. And Angela apparently steals a garbage truck.
Wait, what'd she
And
do?
she steals a garbage truck.
No, she doesn't.
And I believe they're in New York City, if I remember correctly. And she chases this this camper through the streets in the garbage truck, finally running her over. And then Angela takes her clothes and shows up at camp as this person, even though Angela at this point is clearly much older than a camper would be, which is asked throughout the film, what's your age? And her answer is usually, I did a lot of hard drugs, and that's why I look old. So Angela infiltrates this camp for no other reason, but I guess to kill all of the campers there. I don't know why else she would be there. But that's what happens. And yeah, that's it. And in this camp apparently is a combination of underprivileged, quote unquote, bad kids and I guess, very privileged kids. And the dynamic is an interesting one. And I'll leave it at there.
I think I'm calling bullshit right now. There's absolutely no way that she stole a garbage truck and chased someone down the streets of New York and ran them over and stole their identity. That did not happen in this film.
It happens in the first
Wow. I
5 minutes.
mean, and I think what happens in the first 4 minutes is that camper gets naked and they do a nice pause so you could carefully read the tattoo on her breast. That's a milkshake. So I mean, if you don't know what kind of film this is going to be, you know, between the milkshake and the garbage truck exactly what's going to happen here. And for me, this film goes hard, man. It starts off with a bang, and that's exactly what a number 3 film in a trilogy should do. If you don't go this hard in your third film in the trilogy, are you really doing a trilogy? Because that was crazy, insane.
They do go hard in this one. However, what I will say is a lot of it kind of falls really flat. Like I feel like to me, the one-liners Angela delivers worked in part two. In this one, I don't feel like they landed at all. I feel like it was just, and again, I think this was just because they rushed writing it and didn't spend a lot of time on it. I think it comes off so cringy at a lot. It's just not funny to me. And there are some creative, quote unquote, creative kills, but there are also some weird ones. Like there's one scene where Angela is chasing Herman, who is the person that clogged the toilet in House of a Thousand Corpses, and she's just kind of like hitting him with a stick, but like not even hard, and she's like just chasing him around. Like it was like Looney Tunes almost. It was like so bizarre. Like I think what happened was they're just like they probably like are like I don't know, I don't know what to do, so all right, grab a stick, kill him with the stick. Like it just seemed that they had no idea what they were doing and were kind of just like winging it. And it just a lot of this movie just comes off really bad. And it's interesting because again, there's 16 kills, so a lot of kills. I think the pacing is good. There's plenty of nudity in this movie. It's basically the same movie as part two. However, to me, it just doesn't work as well. One thing I did read is okay, the script did originally have more elaborate deaths and kills. However, the budget they had to like change everything and they couldn't do like what they wanted to do, which I think shows.
Yeah, it shows a lot, and there's absolutely no plot. Like you gave the
No,
entire plot of this
yeah,
film
no
already.
plot.
All this film is a segue to the next kill. I think it was just a little clever the way they broke it out, where Angela does assume that identity to blend in as a camper, but then on the first day, they break up into like 3 separate groups, and Angela uses that as like a clever way to really kind of separate everyone and get to work to killing people individually without it being like kind of discovered like what she's doing. And where in the past you could say maybe there was a reason for her to go after and want to kill these campers, but here it's just like her moral standard is just really like I don't I guess this is so high that everyone is bad and basically everyone is a target. Doesn't matter if they're just like lazy. Like if they're just lazy or if they have a beard, they're a target in this film, and no one is safe from her. She's basically just trying to go from each one of these groups and basically kill everyone. I thought it was pretty funny that they had like these troubled poor kids, and that those are the kids that are from New York, LA, Chicago, San Francisco. These are the poor kids, dude. You know, and all the rich kids are like from the Midwest. I think if we fast forward 10 years, if you get to live in New York, LA, Chicago, or San Francisco, your life
Yeah, this
is
is
not
80.
too.
This is like 88 or 89 though, so or 88, right? This is so like things were a little different then. Like remember the New York in the 80s? It was not the New
Yeah.
York of now.
Yeah, it was
This is
all porno
pre-Giuliani.
shops,
This is yeah.
yeah, and hookers. Yeah, I do remember. But I mean, yeah, I thought that was a little funny though, that that's how they portrayed. If you came from like a large city, you were like the bad kid, and everyone from the Midwest was like the good rich kids and stuff like that. I thought that was super funny. Again, they had like a pretty lame cast of characters of like the metalheads, you know, the troublemakers, the slutty girls. can't believe that guy Michael Pollard slept with that girl in the in that first scene, the Herman guy.
Dude, and that was everything about Herman was like ridiculous. Like the way he was flirting, like he had this like Playboy bunny belt and he would like tug on it and like that would get the girl like turned on.
But
It made no
his
sense.
voice, what is that guy? What do you think he is? 5'6",
Yeah,
5'7"?
and he
Like,
had to be like 60 years old,
oh
right?
my
Like, and they did, and
God.
maybe he wasn't 60, but like he looked 60. And like, I was gonna say, I was gonna say the love scene with him and the girl was so awkward. Like, he was just like,
I
wasn't
liked
even
it.
like, yeah, I mean, well, but it, like, he was just like kind of like rubbing his face on her. Like, he was probably scared to like kiss her. At some point, he does like actually kiss on her breast. I was like, whoa. But for like a good 2 minutes, he's just kind of like nuzzling and like,
I mean, that's my move. So I
well,
mean, it's
you got
not.
married, so it must work.
I mean, so I guess it worked, but yeah, there was a ton of nudity in this film. I think by the half-hour mark, there was actually, and I took notes on this. I was like marking it like on my notebook with my Sharpie SGL pen, that there was actually more nudity than kills in the first half hour, which was kind of surprising. So we have like 5 scenes of nudity in the first half hour, and I think only 3 kills. So there was actually an unbalance at one point. But don't worry, Angela definitely makes up for it, and she really just starts killing everyone, and with really no motive. I mean, the kills, some of them I thought were cool, but then a lot, and what you said before makes a lot of sense. Probably budget constraints is they cut the kill, which seemed like it was going to be cool, but then they cut it right before it actually happens, and you don't see it. You just see the aftermath, which isn't the same. So I don't know if they had problem with the effects or just budgets and things like that, but like a lot of things that look like they were going to be cool end up not being cool. And just thinking of things like when she buried the camp counselor and she was gonna like mow her with like the lawnmower, that, I mean, I was like, oh my God, like a lawnmower, no way. But they didn't show it.
No, so I'm gonna actually cut you off right there. So originally the film had an X rating for gore and violence, and they had to cut some of the scenes, including that one, which apparently the person from the MPAA who watched that movie said they got physically ill by watching that scene and needed them to cut it down. So all of this seems crazy, but like in the like 80s, mid to late 80s, the MPAA was cracking down on violence, especially in horror movies. And they were like giving everything like an X rating and everything had to be cut. I mean, we talked about like House of a Thousand Corpses had to be cut dramatically. Like, and that was even a little later than this, but they went kind of crazy and they were like the sex was okay back then and
So
the
they were
violence
okay with
was
the
not.
underage sex,
They
but
were
the
okay with that, but the
violence.
violence was a problem. Whereas now it's completely
Yeah.
opposite, right? Now you could be as violent as you want, but you can't have sex in movies. But in the 80s, so this had an X rating and they had to cut some of the kills. Now I don't know what they actually would have shown. Like I don't know what the original cut was because it doesn't exist. But yeah, that scene, the lawnmower one in particular, and there was one or two others that they had to either cut out or cut down.
I
And I
mean,
don't know
there
what those
she
other ones
sets
are.
like a tent on fire with everyone in it. She puts like firecrackers in like some guy's mouth. I mean, there were definitely
That
some
was
pretty
ridiculous. The one I thought that
sick
was
kills.
the most brutal, or maybe not the most brutal, one of the most brutal is when she like put that woman at the flagpole and then dropped her.
Yeah, yeah,
That was fucked
Cindy.
up.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Oh, that
so
was the
she
other one, Cindy. That was the one that apparently they wanted them to cut too. So I think that was like more bloody or something with that one.
it's pretty funny though. She had that very questionable language that she used that was similar to like a Quentin Tarantino film.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm not even gonna repeat what she said, but
Yeah,
I'm
she said a
surprised
word. She
that,
said a word
yeah,
that you couldn't say in a movie now.
I mean, and the way she, oh God, the way she said it was, oh my God, I could never in 2024
Yeah, you
with
wanted to
anything
see her
like
get
that,
killed
would
immediately
that
after that.
happen. And
Yeah.
honestly, I just thought I didn't know if the flagpole was enough. I wanted to see her get the lawnmower or
Hmm.
something like that, or maybe the firecracker in the mouth. So, yeah, I mean, there were definitely some brutal kills in here, and I think that's really all there is to talk about it is the kills, because there's no like additional layers to this film where maybe you could pull like the humor in and all that stuff into the second film. And of course, you could talk about a lot of the character and plot development in the first one. This doesn't have any of that, like they just like let Angela run wild, and it's like a free for all. It's just pretty much how quickly she could get to the next kill, and do it and move on to the next. And that is really it. That is the whole movie. So to me, this definitely is more like a Friday 13th, where all the B characters, they're not relevant. You don't care. You don't really know their names. You don't, it's not important to know their names. They're not going to be in the movie long enough to get to know them. You know, they're not Judy, you know, they're not Allie. They're not going to do anything that's like they're going to be known for it. They're basically just there as like, you know, killer bait and to and to be killed. That's it.
Yeah, and you could tell they wrote this movie in like 2 days. Like there's no real, again, like you said, no plot, no substance. It's just kill after kill. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. However, if you want something deeper, you're not going to get that here. This is just kind of, again, a generic kind of by the numbers slasher. It just kind of, you're just guessing like, okay, what like, how creatively is she going to kill this next person? And again, some of the kills are really creative, some boring and not so much. Just depends. I'm assuming that they maybe had a better kill in the script and they just had to change it, or maybe they just like, man, we got no ideas. We're in a rush. We're shooting this other movie. We have no time to work on this script. Right? The one like note, the other final note I have in this that like really bothered me, and it's a quick thing. And I was like forgot about this scene, and when it was happening, I was like, oh no, it's when Angela is going to kill the African American character, and before she does, he's in the tent doing whatever he's doing, and she slides like a cassette tape, and it's a tape of her rapping.
Oh my God.
And that is one of the cringiest things,
Cringe.
and possibly
Oh,
a little racist too, but like, I mean,
oh,
not with what she says, but just like, okay, like you're gonna give the African American like a rap,
a
like,
rap.
and that's something you would only
Yeah.
see in like an 80s movie. And I know this, I don't think it's the only movie that did stuff like that. There were lots of movies that like everybody was trying to hop on the rap train at that point. But oh my God, I'm watching it and I'm like, please don't do this. I'm like, please, oh no, it was
I mean,
so bad.
she didn't have any tight rhymes
No, there
or
was no
anything like
flow
that.
there,
I
you
mean,
know.
she was not tearing it up at all. And yeah, that was definitely a cringe moment. I think I actually got up and peed during that because I was like, I forgot about it. And then I pretty much left after that.
She should have asked her brother Bruce Springsteen for some lyrics because that might have made it a little better.
so so the funny thing is I remember when we were very, very young, you and I remember watching this film with you.
Yep.
And what really stands out to me is probably like that first 5 minutes. And I think when we were like young teens, I really remember putting this on for the first time. And when you gave the plot, it's absurd. And watching it happen really for the first time, I think we were just like blown away. And I think we rewound that garbage truck scene probably 3 or 4 times and just like kept watching it over and over again. And we really couldn't get over it because it was so unexpected. And you could clearly tell that that was like the big moment of the film, and that's probably where like most of the budget went into, is getting this garbage truck and pulling off like that stunt. And I mean, it started with such a bang. And yeah, obviously all the kills there, they could be funny or gruesome, and some worked and some didn't. But just that opening scene, I mean, that was fantastic. And that's something that, I mean, to this day I still remember, and I still remember the way I felt when I saw it. It was crazy, it was gory, it was unexpected, it was everything in like 3 seconds. It was crazy.
Yeah, no, it starts off with a fucking bang, and I think it kind of holds your attention for a good amount of time. But again, I would say the last half hour really just drags because again, it's just more of the same. It's like, okay, one more person for her to kill, one more bad joke, one more, like it just gets really repetitive at some point because again, you don't, all the characters are throwaways. Like there's really nothing there. It's just, you know, 2 minutes of talking, kill, 2 minutes of talking, kill, and it's, you know, so it's hard to keep that pace for a long amount of time. In the second one, they accomplished that, and I think because there is a little bit more there, like you kind of understand why she's killing various counselors because like they did X. In this one, again, she's going to kill them no matter what it seems. So they pull it off in the second one. In this one, they don't pull it off. Where again, it's like if I was going to watch this again, I guarantee you I would probably turn it off at some point. I don't know what that point is, but at some point, you're like, okay, I've seen it. I'm good. I don't need to get to like, I don't need to see these last 6 people get killed because it's going to be this repetitive. So I think that's where this movie falls short. And again, I think they were just trying to do something really quick. And even though they spent 3 weeks shooting this and 3 weeks shooting the other one, it looks and feels like a completely different movie. And I actually did not know they were filmed back to back. And it makes sense that again they spent all their money and time on the other one, and we're just kind of like fucking around on this one. So I don't know. I would say I'm not a fan of this one at all.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I don't
I
care
don't know
for
if I
it.
would say
Yeah, I
that.
don't hate
It's
it.
mindless. It's mindless,
Yeah,
and
but
sometimes
I
you know, you need that. Like, what's wrong with like a mindless slasher just to kind of put on in the background? Definitely a type of film that would never be made today. They don't make them like that anymore. I'll sound like a boomer, but they really don't make movies like this anymore that are pointless. That it's just about the kills and just trying to be like creative with that.
Yeah, you know what though? Like, I'm not saying it's a bad movie at all. Like, and I don't have an opinion whether it's good or bad. I'm just saying I don't personally like it. And if I was going to put on a movie like this, I would just put on the second one.
Oh yeah.
Like, I wouldn't choose this one. Now maybe I'd watch the second one and be like, okay, let me put on the third one just because I'm gonna keep going. But yeah, if I'm looking for like, oh, I just want to watch a fun slasher movie or a mindless slasher movie, I'm gonna go for that one. And I'm never gonna choose this one just to watch. Again, maybe I again watch them all three together or whatever reason, but I'm just not gonna ever say, oh, I feel like watching part three. Like, I don't think I'll ever do that. I don't think I ever have. Other than be like, oh, I forgot about that movie. Maybe I should watch it again. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I don't watch this movie. So again, not if there's nothing wrong with it, other than again, I think I wish the jokes landed. I wish some of the kills were better. I wish there was somewhat of a plot. But I get it that sometimes you just want these mindless movies. I just think this one just isn't for me, and I don't hate it. I just don't. I wouldn't say I like it.
It's not the best in the trilogy, but probably the best start of all the films. So I'll give it that. I'll give it like the best start of all the three films, but definitely doesn't pan out and it doesn't last. It doesn't have the longevity of the other two. So I saw that the budget for Sleepaway Camp 2 was just under 500,000. Now, do you think that that was a shared budget between 2 and 3, or do you think that that was the actual budget for number 2 and they actually had more money to make
Yeah, I don't, I
part
don't, I
3?
don't know because if they were already making the decision to shoot the third one while they were doing the second one, I feel like it would be challenging to find investors right away. I mean, it's possible that it said like whoever the investors were for part two just said, "Oh, we got this great idea. We're gonna do another one," and maybe they were able to get some extra money. But I would imagine, I would imagine part three cost very little.
I
Even
couldn't
though
find any information
yeah,
on
it
their
probably was
budget.
like whatever they had left over. They just said, okay, let's shoot a third one, maybe. I mean, the only thing it would have cost money is again, they spent 3 weeks shooting it, which is really long for this movie to take that.
Yeah, they got the garbage
However,
truck too.
what'd you say? Yeah, the
They
garbage
got the
truck, right?
garbage truck.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I don't know. But again, 500 grand for the other one in the 80s, like I guess that's a lot. I don't know. Yeah, they probably. Again, I imagine this costs very little, which is fine. It is what it is, right? It's just a campy, over the top slasher movie that, unfortunately, again, there's better ones I would choose. So I guess just to wrap this one up. So like I said, I don't. It's not that I hate this movie. I just don't really like it. I'm going to give it 2.5 bloody knives because there is some cool stuff in it, and like it's not like I'm never going to watch it again. I will definitely put it on again at some point. I'll probably turn it off at the hour mark, but yeah, 2.5 for me.
That makes perfect sense. I'm kind of with you on that. I'm going to give it a little bit more just because I just thought that beginning was so fun and I have such great memories of it and seeing it for the first time and probably on a VHS tape and we probably wore it out by just like rewinding it and watching like that garbage truck over and over again. So I'm gonna give it a 3. Just it's not my favorite film. I would probably watch 2 would be my go-to for this trilogy. And then it'd be like a coin toss of whether or not I watch this or the first one. I like the first one. I like the first one a lot because of like what it stands for and what it's doing and how unique it is. But if I'm in the mood for like a slasher, I might lean towards like part 3 just because it's truly it's a slasher. It's a movie that we probably watched a million times in the 80s just with a different name. It could be anything. There's a killer, there's a camp, there's teens, and we've probably seen it 1,000 times just with a different name. So sometimes you just want to see that. So it's decent. 3. That's where I stand.
It's interesting how they never like remade this, right? And again, like now in 2024, you probably couldn't remake the original the way it was because of the climate and sensitivities, but 10 years ago they could have, right? And I know they've tried to make a fourth one. I think they were even trying to make one with Melissa Rose at one point. I think it was Return to Sleepaway Camp, but I don't think it ever got made. I think they started it and then ran out of money and never did it. But it just seems like, again, it's such a great title, Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah.
Like it's such a thing that has nostalgia. Out of all the, like, they remade The Strangers from 14 years ago, but they never remade Sleepaway Camp. I'm not saying they should, but it just seems like odd that I wonder if it's like a rights thing or it seems odd that of all the horror movies, and they've remade every horror movie, like why they never touched this one again. And I don't think it has to do with the issues. I think it's like, I don't know why. I wonder why. Again, I don't think it will ever be remade now, but like I'm shocked they didn't do it like 5-6 years ago.
I might be out of the loop here, but do they still have sleepaway camps? Is that like a thing? Does that exist today?
I don't.
Or is it just like a daycare type thing?
I would imagine they do some stuff, right? Or at least I know they do stuff for like underprivileged kids where they'll send them to like a camp for a couple of weeks. I know they still do stuff like that. Like they have programs like that. I don't know if they have sleepaway camps. I feel like maybe there are less of them now than there used to be, but I don't know. If you want to make a fun slasher movie, like a camp is a great idea, right?
I mean, maybe they just update it. They have all the campers and they're adults, and Felissa Rose stars as the camp counselor, and you direct it.
All right.
I'm just putting that out there just in case Felissa is listening. I know she follows us on Instagram, so maybe she wants to jump in. She wants to jump in on a film and knock out Sleepaway Camp 4.
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it. I'll start writing it right now.
I'm ready to take some.
Oh yeah, we got to do
and
this.
I feel like I'm probably like drunk and you're sober because I lost like literally every possibility to lose in this episode. I lost. So
I would say you're more drunk than me, except that I'm drinking along with cold medicine. So it's dangerous going on here. All right, so let's see. You're drinking for 2.5. I'm drinking for 3. Let's cheers.
Yep.
I'm gonna get close to the mic so you could hear.
That's my drink.
Woof. All right, my hot toddy has. That's it. No more sips. We are done with that. And all right. This was a lot of fun. I'm actually really glad we got to watch these movies because, again, I haven't seen them in a long time and have been meaning to. I just never really had an excuse to watch them. So this was a lot of fun. So I'm not sure what we're going to do on the next episode. I know we're going to take like a couple of week hiatus just because I'm about to go direct 2 different films. I'm directing a Maidroid sequel and I'm directing an LGBTQ edgy thriller that I'm going to start shooting next week, but we'll be back mid-July with our next episode, so we'll see what's happening there.
Yeah, and I think this will be a perfect opportunity for anyone listening to check out, the original Maidroid that's on Tubi right now, and maybe some of Rich's other films. So just search him on Tubi. He has, I think he's up to 8 or 9 films right now, which 8 films, which I can't believe, and he's about to knock out 2. So he's about to hit double digits in his film career. So definitely want to say congratulations to you. That's an amazing feat, and I'm really proud of you. And I'm happy we get to do this together, but I also like to see you developing as a filmmaker, director, writer, producer. You do it all. He's super talented. Everyone that comes on the show, they love him. So he must be doing something right. So check him out.
Thank you. I'm about to zell you for saying that. We said $200, right? For
that? Listen, everyone knows how cheap I am. I think I mentioned it on episode 2.
Oh, it's $20. Oh shit.
Yeah, no, I think it was 50. All right,
$50 coming your way.
$50. I'll give you a shout out. We do have all these episodes filmed in a vault somewhere that maybe one day we'll release, and I could give you some product placement for a fairly affordable price if you want me to sip your bourbon, use your pen, use your notebook,
wear your
whatever
headphones.
It is. Yeah, that's it. It could happen. I'm just letting you know. Just hit me up, send us some emails, send us some hate mail. If you think we're stupid, definitely let us know. We'll make sure to shout you out on the show.
Yeah, and also, follow us on Instagram at horrorheadspodcast, or you could email us at horrorheadspodcast@gmail.com. And that's it. Hope everybody has a great night. I will see you all very soon. Cheers.
Next time. Cheers.